Hello, welcome to the Book Harlots and happy holidays. It's Christmas week. We're this week talking about
The War of a Heart Winner. I am AJ Norris.
I'm Eliza Man.
And I'm Safe Spelling.
We just had a whole fiasco because I can't find my book and I tore my bookshelves up. I'm so upset about it. But AJ is going to read it for us and get us kicked off. Thanks, AJ.
But were you going to start off with a question?
I was. Yeah, I had a shot. All right, so the question is for the Book Harlots: if you were at the mansion and you were with the brother or other of your choice, what would you be doing, and who is the brother or other? We'll start with you, Sage.
So my question is, does it have to be one? I mean, because I'm a girl that would like to visit. I'm like Santa girl. So I'd like to visit all my favorites, and give out presents. So for me, I'm going to, take the mansion room by room and visit my friends. So the first one I'm going to visit is going to be Zeta's. And of course I would come in with a basket full of green apples, and we would sit and he would slice green apples for us, and we would share and then enjoy our morning. Because, that's how I'm going to start the day. And then afterwards, I'm going to go visit Rage, and me and Rage would watch a movie, maybe something like Die Hard or something, and eat ice cream and then enjoy our time, and then I really feel like I would need to spend the rest of the night with Eric and Eval. And I think because I feel like they're a package deal. So I feel like the time should be spent together. And I'm sure after we cook dinner, because, those boys like to eat. Like those boys like to eat, so I would bring them dinner and we would enjoy the rest of the night. And that's how I would cap off my time at the mansion.
I'm going to say, I'm going to leave it alone. I hear you. You didn't say anything sexual, but I feel that in. Never fear. I feel it all in.
I mean, I feel like you guys are smart enough to fill in the blanks.
There's not a blank in my mind right now. How about you, AJ? Are you spreading the love?
Well, let's see. I have this affinity for the Bastards for some reason. I don't know. I just adore these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, but only two of them are pretty much unmated. Well, I've got Balthazar too, but I don't know. I'm just a Zephyr girl, and we hardly hear anything about Siphon. Like, he's never mentioned. You ever notice that? Like, so I want to know what makes this dude tick.
Yeah, find out what.
As far as a present,
you say dick? Oh, sorry.
Really, that's what
as far as like a present or something. I mean, I could wrap myself up in a bow, because I think anything goes with this dude.
I feel like you're right about that. I think it's too all day. And then it's just one for you, or?
Well, we could have a sandwich. We could have a three-way.
Y'all are amazing. I love it.
Well, and they're big. I like to see how big they are.
Yeah, they are. I'm so dirty today. I shouldn't have had that shot of whiskey. Anyway, so I am going to start off the evening with a sale. I gotta go see him. I'm gonna take him some goodies, and maybe we'll bake some cookies, and then he'll eat the cookies, and then I'm going back home to my boo, because I can't be away from Rev for too long. He needs me to lean on. So we're going to spend the evening watching Hallmark Christmas movies, which he'll hate. And then we'll watch Long Kiss Goodnight. And then we'll exchange gifts. He's giving me a matching sable coat. And I'm going to go get in that big old tub, get out and put just the coat on and a bow, and that'll be our night. And I'll let you guys break up that. That's That's the jump. I think that's it. I feel like the viewers should go ahead and put who they be spending time with on Christmas and what they be doing in the comments. All right. Thank you guys for sharing all your dirty details. I mean, your Christmas Eve dinner. All right. I guess we can read the book now. Go ahead, AJ.
Okay, so where winter finds you. When Trez lost his beloved to a tragic death, his soul was crushed and his destiny regulated to suffering. But then he meets a mysterious female and he is convinced his true love has been reincarnated. Is he right? Or has grief created a disastrous delusion? Therese has come to Codwell to escape a rift with her bloodline. The revelation that she was adopted and not born into her family shakes the foundations of her identity, and she is determined to make it on her own. Her attraction to Trez is not what she's looking for, except the sexy shadow proves to be irresistible. Has fate provided a grieving widower with a second chance, or is Trez too blinded by the past to see the present clearly? In this sensual, arresting story of redemption and self-discovery, two lost souls find themselves at a crossroads where the heart may be the only compass that can be trusted.
Good. Let me tell you something. That was audible worthy.
What? What did you say?
I said that was audible worthy. Your reading was outstanding. All right. Is that a Christmas word? Sage, you got down there?
Yes.
What does it say?
I forgot. It says a cup of Christmas cheer.
All right. Mine says all Mama Want is a silent night. So, you know.
And as you can see, I'm very festive.
AJ, like, I just want it to be over. All right. Let's get into these questions. So there was a significant parallel that, you know, you would have had to be like under a rock or something to miss between Trace and John. They both had no conscious memory. They had dreams they remember, but, you know, don't really, you know, can't really put their fingers on like where they came from, who the people were, who the past lovers were. And Hex is familiar to John, you know, and she doesn't know why, much in the same way that Trace is similar to, or Trez is familiar to Teresa. So what are your guys' thoughts on that? Did you notice that right off the rip?
Yeah, right away, you know, and I don't know, it's kind I still want JM to know about it, but I get where, you know, Hex doesn't want to hurt him, and I get that. So that's, you know, but there definitely parallels. I mean, yeah, with, you kind of stated it already with the, you know, with the memory, the conscious memory, and, you know, also wanting to belong, like a sense of belonging. Like Therese, come on, like, you know, she finds out that she's adopted, and it kind of puts her in a tailspin of like, who am I? And kind of John was kind of the same way, if you think about it. You know, he didn't even know he was a vampire, and so there's things like that. You know, the dreams, and then not being able to really see who it is in their dream. You know, like John always says he had these dreams about seeing towards, you know, and these things, and seeing it from a point of view of a person that he can't see the face of, so, which we all know is Darius, but but, you know, and it's like Therese, she has this shadow lover and she can't see his face, but she everything else about him is familiar. So, and then when she meets Trez, you know, she kind of, you know, and they kiss and they, you know, they have sex, she realizes, oh yeah, this is him. You know, why am I having this dream? So,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that was evident for most people. How about you, Sage?
I mean, I agree with what AJ said. I can see why she didn't. I would love her to be like, hey, so listen, you know, this is why these things are happening to you. I mean, I think we all kind of want John to get that kind of comfort, but I know that she knows that she can't tell him because she doesn't even know all the answers herself. I think she kind of is putting it together, but she doesn't have like a clear vision of what really is going on with him. We have and they have gotten a lot of hints of who he could be. I mean, just with what you said, and then not only that, but his reactions to Beth, right? Those are reactions that you normally wouldn't have to a sibling. It is more maternal. So, I mean, they were, you know, so they're all hinted, but I think it's better that he doesn't know if he can't understand the full story.
Yeah,
So,
it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is. I feel the same way about Therese too, because, you know, I think knowing everything can sometimes kind of shake things up. You know, and the warden kind of alludes to that it would destabilize the world for them to know. And the more you think about it, as much as you want them to be fully actualized people and know who they were, if there were such a thing as reincarnation, and I'm not saying there's not, in case somebody, you know, believes that, you know, would that person really know who they were before? And I think the answer is no. So, you know, you might get an inkling, but I don't think you necessarily know that.
Yeah.
So while we're on that conversation, you know, you mentioned AJ or Sage, I'm not sure which one of you mentioned it, but you mentioned that John has those similarities to Darius. So he has a fighting style that's unique to Darius, and everybody noticed that. And I'm like, man, that feels familiar. He was born with the tattoo, which he thought was a birthmark on his chest. Did you see that for Therese and Selena? You know, what were the similarities that you saw between those two?
You know, I don't feel like there were any.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they were completely different. They were strong individuals. The only similarity I would say, they are strong women. Selena fought for what she wanted. You know, once that they came out to the real world, out of the sanctuary, she basically kind of started becoming her own woman. And I think that Therese has been she's a strong individual too. I think that's the only similarities I see between them. I think that just like John, he has his own personality and his own traits. I think that it's the same situations. They are individual people, even though they're not.
For sure.
Even though they are the like if we're gonna go with that reincarnated soul, they're still their own individual, their own likes and dislikes, and their own way of doing things. So I feel like there is a little similarities, but I think that just comes from the heart. But in all actuality, I think they're different individuals.
Yeah, you know,
I'm something different. I'm sorry, go ahead.
They didn't really touch on, like in JM's case, they said that some of his mannerisms were the same, but they didn't touch on that with Therese and Selena's, her mannerisms being the same. At least I can't recall.
I would agree.
No, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't think it was that obvious. I do think I did read a little bit deeper in that, you know, both of them kind of, you know, had parents that weren't their parents, like Selena with the scribe virgin and Therese with her adopted parents. They kind of both were plopped into a situation that was brand new for them. So when Therese went to Caldwell, and essentially the same thing as Selena, she got to Caldwell and she was kind of like, wow, it's a whole new world, totally different than what I'm used to, and I have to kind of get used to that. I don't think, other than them looking identical, I didn't see anything other than those two kind of circumstantial things. But I do agree that they are both strong women. They both have, you know, this idea that they kind of want what they want and they're going to go after it, and not taking, you know, just what Trez is handing. And, you know, because Trez's good at that. He's good at just giving out, you know, to women, like, okay, you take this. And they really didn't seem like the type of women that would just deal with that. So those were the three things I saw, but they were really related to their circumstances and not necessarily like, you know, personality over, you know.
Bless you.
Bless you. Bless you. Gesundheit. Okay,
Trying not to.
so she did she did leave she did leave her parents without any forwarding information, and kind of just vanished for a while to go to Caldwell. Was that fair of Race to do that? Was she overreacting a bit? What do you guys think about that?
I mean,
No, I feel like.
okay,
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
I feel like the world was shifted underneath her feet, right? So people are gonna react. She did react badly, but it's understandable. Everything, her whole foundation of her life was kind of shaken, right? So I understand her being really upset. I do think she was wrong with her mother being ill. Her not keeping in touch with them and not checking that phone and doing all of that was a little, I think, a little drastic, because when she did hear bad news, she fell apart. So I was kind of like, not, I'm mad at her, but I kind of like, girl, you should have known better. Check your phone, like you can't go that long and not even check and see, like what's happening. If you care, right? Like if you truly care, you shouldn't go that long. So yeah, I think she was kind of in the wrong in that.
Yeah, everybody reacts to news different ways depending on your personality. So I kind of felt like she overreacted in that she never listened to her mother's side of it. She was just like mad and just started yelling instead of saying like, hey, I found this, please explain it to me. She was just irrational about it, I think, and be like, oh, I just got out of here because, I'm betrayed. I was betrayed. She wasn't betrayed. Her mother loved her, and that was her mother. It was her mother, regardless of there's blood relation or not. I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of selfish on her part. So especially I can understand like you want to be on your own. I get that, but to not say, hey, I'm going to check out Caldwell, I want to find myself now, and be mature about it. She wasn't very mature about it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think she is very mature though. I think she's pretty young. Yeah. She just came out of transition, and sometimes we, see these actions of people who come out of transition and we're like, God, why'd you do that? I think our best example is oh my God, what's the name of the boy that we get mad at all the time? Jesus Christ, Quinn. Every now and then we look at Quinn like, you should know better. But when we were younger, I don't know if we reacted to every situation in an appropriate way. I think she took for granted that her parents will always be there, and when she got done being angry, they would just be there. And she even said, I thought we had more time. I just didn't know. Yeah. So I think she was trying to take some time for herself, the time that she needed for herself. And she just went about it in a really poor way, but very age appropriate, because she is relatively young, bless her heart. Poor thing. I mean, but so Lassiter is the responsible party. And he was like around moving things around, and we'll talk about this throughout the story. The first thing that he did that we saw though was he appeared to Trez in the middle of the street, and in the process of appearing to him as an apparition, he saved a human's life. Why do you think he did that? I don't know that the scribe virgin would have been concerned about a human, but since he's the new scribe virgin, is that just his management style? Or does he have angel duties that we don't know about? What are your guys' thoughts on him saving the human?
My initial thought is that I think that Lassiter was reacting to the fact that, he's an angel. When he sees somebody in proximity to them, he can see what their life was like, their future, their present, their past. And I think he saw that this was already a man who lost his daughter, a family that lost their, the sibling and the daughter. And it's like, I can't let this happen to this family again. And who knows, maybe if Lassiter hadn't been there, that whole thing wouldn't have happened. And so he was just preventing something that he caused, So we don't really know, of course, but
I mean, that's a good speculation. I like it. What are your thoughts, Sage?
If we're gonna compare him to the scribe version, I think that she really believed in like whatever happens type of thing. Like, I don't think she would have gotten out of her way to, to stop it. She would have been like, oh well, it was their time,
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like she was that type of person. But with him, I think that he can't help but do good. Like, I don't think he can help but save in the power and position that he has. I don't feel like he could see something and just let it happen. He'd be like, well, we'll worry about the consequences later. Like, I just feel like he's that type of God, basically. That's what he is right now.
I think I agree with that. I honestly don't think that the scribe virgin can do anything for anybody without having some kind of trade-off. Because she's very much about I couldn't do it because there's no trade-off. That's the balance for her. Okay. And we've seen her, like, the whole reason that Selena died was because the scribe virgin didn't she had a disease, but she could have stepped in, and she had stepped in for other people, but only when she got that trade-off. So I do think that's very much a part of Lasseter's new management style. I don't know necessarily if that was part of his angel duties, because I don't know Lasseter as an angel. I would love to, but I just don't know what his role was. Was he an archangel? Was he, I don't know what he did as a job. So I think that's just very much his heart and the way that he interacts with people. When he sees something wrong, he's ready to step in and correct. Right?
Yeah.
I kind of disagree about the scribe virgin, because I think that if she had, because she always was like, well, you take, for instance, like Rage and Mary. She winds up saving Mary, or she was going to save Mary anyway because of the sacrifice Rage made. But then, she was going to, have it where Mary and Rage couldn't be together. But then when she saw that she could not bear children of her own, that's when she was like, I can't take that away from her. I can't take her warrior away from her. And I think it's almost,
you already
had the sacrifice.
Exactly. Yeah, right. And he did
too. Already
this guy did too, because he already lost a daughter.
No.
No?
I know you give it to her. You trying to give it to her? The scribe virgin.
I'm just saying, I don't think she's that cruel.
I don't think she cares about humans at all. I think the reason that she did things for the humans that she did was because their mates made a sacrifice. I don't know. I mean, I'm just never going to agree that she was a benevolent soul. Y'all know how I feel about her. I just feel like, girl, why you...
No, I totally agree. I don't think she ever did anything. No, I agree. I don't think she would ever do anything that didn't move along her agenda. Because at the end, that's what it was, right? So she wanted Rage to keep that beast. So that's why she saved Mary in the beginning, right? And then she's like, well, I saved her. I'll give her eternal life because she can't have kids, so they can't even procreate. Oh, well, all good, right? And then, and even Jane, she did it to almost like a olive branch to her son, right? Yeah. So it also was a selfish act, in my opinion. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
I know, AJ, you on a good list for the scribe virgin. Too bad she ain't in power no more. You're on a good list. You get a gift from the scribe virgin. She'll probably make you trade off like a hand or something for, some kind of trinket. All right. So, how do you feel? Trez was in that car at the time, and he was thinking some pretty dark thoughts. He was really going to drive his car into the river or into the bay. What do you think about his suicidal thoughts and ultimately his actions?
There were suicidal thoughts, but he hadn't acted on them. And he may have been feeling it right that second. I think that was part of the whole reasoning with Lester being there. Obviously, yeah, he could have plowed right into that truck or whatever.
Mhm.
But I think that it was part of it was a disruption of his thought process, and that's basically it. Kind of was what was needed for him to kind of go, oh shit, no, I really didn't want that, and because he kind of says, yeah, you're okay, I really didn't want that. I mean, he wasn't real adamant about not wanting it, but he was like, I really want that, so because it did scare him. It kind of woke him up, I think, a little bit.
Yeah. How about you, Sage?
I think that you're right. It did scare him, because not in the same reason though. I think he has that, though. He had those thoughts. He wanted to die, and the only reason why he didn't want to die was because he wanted to join Selena in the Fade. And if he dies, if he takes his own life, he loses his ability to go to the Fade. So that is, I think, the main reason why he didn't do it. He didn't want to live. He was in complete despair. But having an ever after with her in the afterlife is what was keeping him from completely crossing that line.
Yeah. I think he did have some actions that were suicidal. You can have those moments of despair. He shut himself off. He really wasn't like himself. He was, reserved. And in a way, to pull yourself out of a unit, like he is with the I Am. I think that's kind of like, he died a little bit every day. And I do think that was very much self-inflicted. I don't think he knew how to live until Therese came along. So I do think he had actions and definitely thoughts that made him.
I'm sorry, my phone is dying.
Sorry, get your cord. Don't die. Please don't die. Tris. You're our Tris today. But yeah, I think they very much had those. I think he, couldn't help himself. He was just, kind of felt like he was out there on an island, and without Selena, he wasn't going to be right anymore. And I do think it was only a matter of time before he just died of a broken heart, right? So sad. So lots of people were trying to reach out to him. My boo, Rev, in particular, went over there and tried to do a little bit of counseling. What y'all think of his approach to Trey?
So funny. He's just like, so this isn't my Sean said, so
Tried.
it should apply to you. Pills. You should need to take some pills.
Just pop those pills. They work.
Take them. They're fine. I mean, I take drugs. They work.
But I like the whole scene of him, like it was like the parting of the Red Sea when he comes into the club.
Oh, absolutely. It was very brazen of him, considering everybody thought he was dead, right? I mean, that just shows how much he loves Trez and wasn't going to let him go down that rabbit hole. What do you think, Sage?
I think he needed someone like Rev to say stuff like that, right? Because not only do they have the friendship and the mutual respect, but it was somebody that has gone through a lot of shit, and he knows it. And he's like, look, him reaching out to him, and in the form that he did, because he didn't just be like, hey, hon, no, he cussed him out, So
bad.
It was that he needed someone that was not going to handle him with kid love. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that Rev's approach was probably one of the only ways that he would have snapped out of what he was doing.
Yeah. I was like, shut up, Rev. I think I kind of, I was nervous because I'm like, don't push him over the edge, because he was just like going, like, listen, this ain't going down this way. And I did feel like it was a bit brusque, but I don't know if Rev has any other way. But I do think Trez understood that it took a lot for Rev to come there. I mentioned that he was supposed to be dead, and everybody probably was like, dude, that ain't Rev. But I think the very action showed Trez that he needed to like really look toward the future and not slowly drag everybody down with him. So this is a sad book. I mean, it was hard. It was hard to watch. So, anything else on my man before we move on? I just want to let y'all get it all out.
Hot.
He is hot. He is hot. Boo right there. All right. So, in all this, was keeping a little secret. They were pregnant. Him and Mason were having a baby, and they didn't tell Trez right away. Do you think if Trez knew that sooner, it would have added to his grief like I thought, or would it have alleviated some of his pain? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that it would have alleviated his pain. Even like Trez says, he would have appreciated him telling him sooner. He's like, he understood why he didn't, but I just think, yeah, it would have, because he was like, okay, now I have something to live for too. My niece, I have, there's hope. A new life brings new hope, so I just thought, yeah, he wouldn't have been selfish for I.M. to tell him, because Trez would have been happy for him regardless of his own grief, because this is bro, he loves him. So,
yeah, I totally agree with that. What do you think, Sage?
I'm going to agree with her, with what you said, but mostly the second part. I think he was definitely would be happy for his brother. He knows the sacrifices his brother made for him, and so now that his brother is getting that happily ever after, it wouldn't. I mean, he might have kind of in the back of his mind, kind of thought about it, but I don't think it would have just still alleviated some of the pain. It would have given him a light that at least his brother is getting his happily ever after. At least there's this new growth within our family, So I feel. I feel strongly that that's how he would have felt.
Yeah, especially since they had such a shoddy family life in the first place.
Yeah.
I think that really would have helped Trez kind of put things in a perspective that all was not lost, because he felt like he was on an island. Like everybody was moving on with their life. Everybody had the love they wanted, and he was the only one that had been denied. In the last moment when all else was failing, he was the only one that was denied. I mean, like Tor had a chick come from the other side, so I just felt like, I understand why AM did it, but I think he needed to trust that, like siblings do, even if I'm in a world of pain, I'm never going to want anything bad for you because I love you. I don't know why I.M. couldn't see that, but I just think he could have handled it better. I was really disappointed in I.M. for a little bit, and especially since Trez could see that I.M. was hiding something from him. That made it kind of worse, right? I didn't love it, I.M. I'm gonna need you to do better, sir. So that's all I got to say. Speaking of other people, though, Biddy, our friend Biddy, made a beautiful card for Trez. Does she have like a sixth sense? Because she was like, I didn't see her up there because she had put her mom up at the top of the card, but she put Selena on the same line with Trez. Does she have a sixth sense?
It feels like it, right? It feels like there's something more about this little girl. She's so resilient and compassionate, but the little things that she says, it's almost like she hits them on the nose. And it really does make me feel like she has some sort of sixth sense.
Yeah, I almost feel like she's an old soul, because she has run the gauntlet and survived. She had an abusive father, then she had broke every bone in her body practically broken, and just the horrors that, it didn't kill her, it made her stronger, Yeah, I think she has some sort of intuition, some sort of sense that, and I think in this world, it's like the vampires do have those kind of senses. So they have visions and they have things that aren't explained, There's nothing wrong with it. I totally believe it, hook, line, and sinker. But it's just, And so I think, she's like, well, when I was doing it, she had a feeling, it was just a feeling that, she had. And I love that. And I just got to touch on this because I love the fact that she named her baby brother that was never born. So Charlie, because he had come to her in a vision.
Yeah, I think that's really, really cool. She's just a cool little kid. And I do think she has some kind of sixth sense or some kind of intuition, because she does say these things that you're like, whoa, that's a little, adult for you or advanced for you. But I think she calls it like she sees it. And I very much enjoy whenever she's on the page. I want a whole bitty book. I know that's asking for a lot, but she's getting older, and I want to see her through her teenage years. So there it is. I said it. So why do you think Trez? Because for a moment it was almost like he didn't realize that there was a distinction between Teresa and Selena, even though other than her looks, they didn't have those distinguishing characteristics like John has with Darius. So he almost seemed surprised when he had to face that revelation that she was definitely not his lost Shellen. Why do you think that was so hard for him?
I don't know if I would characterize it as surprise. I think that it was like coming to the realization that he can't keep lying to himself more than anything. Because rationally he knows, okay, she, and she, until he knew more about her family, because before he met Rosen and Liz, what was the mother's name? Liz.
Don't make me do it. I had a shot.
But and her brother Gareth, it was like until he met them, they weren't concrete ideas to him. It was like in the abstract. And so when he was faced with it, it was like, like I gotta face it. I gotta face this. It hurts. It sucks. And when he tells her, well, we'll get into that. I won't jump ahead in your questions, but I don't know. I don't know if I would say surprise, but I think that he just didn't want to do it. He didn't want to admit that to himself.
How about you, Sage? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think for him, it was more like if she was a different person and not actually Selena, then he would be cheating. And so right. So I feel like while he was under the assumption that she just fell out of the air and came down as Selena in this make-believe life that she was telling him, then maybe, that there was still a possibility that she was Selena. So that means his feelings towards her, his actions towards her, it wasn't cheating, because to him, he was cheating on Shellen afterwards, right? Yeah, so it was like once he realized it wasn't really her, then it was really cheating. And though he wasn't, because technically she had died, in his mind, he was cheating on her.
Yeah, I don't think he had ever resolved that he would meet anybody else. Like he was probably upfront saying, I'll never meet anybody like her, and I don't even want to. And then when he saw her, I think without seeing her family like tethered to her, and her having this mysterious background that he didn't know about, it made it easy for him to live in a bit of a fantasy. And she even said it like, I think he knew, because he made conscious decisions, like not calling her by her name while they were having intimate acts. And, I think that slapped her a bit more than anything, but we'll get to that later. But I think he was aware that she wasn't her, but I don't know if he closed the door all the way. I think he was kind of like, well, maybe one day I'll find out that this really is my Shellen, and I'm gonna keep living this fantasy because it feels so good, that poor guy. I felt so bad for him. So he did have like a breakdown eventually. Not the first time he had sex, the second time when they were at the cottage, because he was, I think because he was trying to make this life real for him. Why do you think, that second time felt more intense for Trez?
I gotta say, maybe it was the location. Because when it sex the first time, it was right after this like scary thing that happened, and it was quick, and they had their clothes on, and they were just going at it like, and like he didn't have time to think. It was just all reaction, and it's like, okay, she looks like Selena, and it was this scary, almost life and death situation, even though she tried to say like, hey, I wasn't in danger, even though the gun went off right by her head. But I think it was just, they were caught up in the moment. He didn't have time to think about it. But when they were in the Cape Cod house, it was like she, it was slow, and it was, they had time to really see each other, and to, and it felt more real to him. I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing, but
yeah,
his mind had time to wander, and especially, at first got interrupted by Fritz, and so it was yeah. Since she falls out of the house.
I wasn't mad at Fritz. Remember, bring some food in, buddy. I had
to go 2 places for meat.
I had to go to my butcher. Oh my God. How about you, Sid? What are your thoughts?
I think I agree with AJ. It was an emotional time for him because they had that extra intimacy, and they had, she had shared her whole life experiences with him. So those things were starting to creep in, even though he didn't want to admit it. It was creeping into his subconscious that maybe this isn't really Selena. And, and I think that with the emotional connection and the guilt starts to set in. And I think that's why, he had that meltdown.
I think so too. I'm leaning more towards the guilt thing, because I do think Trez is a good person, underneath it all. And even when he was whoring around, he never like lied to the women. He was very, it was very apparent that was going to be it for them. So welcome back. I don't know what's happening. I think he's such a good person. I think that started to chip away at the life that he was trying to create in that moment. And I don't think, he wanted to hurt her. And I also don't think he was exactly ready. I kind of agree with I am a little bit. I don't know if he was exactly ready for a new relationship, had it not been the circumstances that they were. And she actually had been a fully different person. I don't know if he would have been ready to love her. There were some things that solidified in the story that this was who he was supposed to be with. Like, when after the fire, she, kind of was like, I'm here, my love, I'm back, and those types of things. And for Therese too, where she got to see her old self. And I think those things solidified for them. I do very much think that since that happened before those times, he wasn't sure, and he was feeling really bad about it, as he wasn't calling her by her name, and he wasn't fully committing to this new person that he had in his life. So totally agree with that. I have, oh my God, where was I? Jeez, oh pizza almighty. All right, so do you think, I think I already asked that. Was I am overreacting to Trez wanting Therese and thinking she was his dead Shellen? So let's switch to I am.
Yes.
Look at y'all faces.
Yes. I mean, I think he was overreacting. I think I am kind of reminds me of of Fury in that way, where like he just kind of was trying to put his brother in a bubble and constantly trying to protect him, even when it would just be easier to like just be the brother, be there for him instead of, constantly trying to school him. Eventually, Trez would have figured out, and he did on his own, what the actual situation is. And he should have just trusted in him and just been a supportive instead of, like going off on him and, trying to make the point that she's not Selena.
Yeah, the savior complex. He's trying to save him as opposed to just letting him instead of supporting him. I think he overreacted a little bit, and I but I mean, I understand where he was coming from too. He was trying to protect him, but it's like at some point you gotta let your brother grow up, on his own. So
Eventually, yeah. I think Trez kind of earned the overprotection a little bit because he was acting like, he was over the deep end. And I think from Iam's perspective, he said some of the things that we said that, it is very new and you haven't let yourself, you're not out of this grieving period because you're still moping around, so I get what Iam was doing. But, at some point, you do have to let people be who they are. And even if you don't agree with something that they're doing, I don't know if it warrants you withholding information, like you're about to have a baby and, all of those things. I think that's the part that he overreacted to. Like, I don't see a problem with him telling him, hey, are you sure you're ready for this? But like, he was withholding information. I do think that part was an overreaction because your brother is a strong person. So, you got to trust that a little bit. And I don't think he was ready to do that. Like, had some growing to do in that situation too. So I'm glad he finally told him, but geez, peace almighty, he was really acting a little bit weird. So we're going to shift a little bit to Hex. So do you think that Iam was being asked to Hex, for thinking that Hex lied to Trez about Therese being Selena reincarnated? What do you think about his reaction to that?
I think he was doing the savior thing, right? Like, protecting his brother, not even taking into consideration that, she cares about him. She's not going to lead him on. And she obviously sensed something or knows something because, she's not irresponsible. She wouldn't say something like that. And he should know that about her by now. So, yeah, I really do think he was wrong in overreacting to that.
Yeah, especially since, like, the three of them know each other. I know Trez says, like, she's my best friend. She would never lie to me. But it's like he knows her just as well. So, like, it was kind of a dick move.
It really was. So that part, that's what I mean. Like, his reactions, like, I get you worried, but you can't negate everything that you know about these people because you're like, oh, but I need to protect him. I don't know where he would have, because he knows all these things about Hex. He knows that she has this sixth sense. He knows that she has the ability to see inside of people and their intentions. So why not trust that in that moment? Like, I don't understand why he was doing that right then, especially not to Hex. So what do you feel though about her telling him? Was it wrong for her to tell him? Do you, like, if you were Hex, what would you have done?
No, I think that, in a way you kind of wonder, did she tell him because she can't tell John, or did she just really feel like, I don't know. I think she was just very, she, as a sympath, she's like an empath too. So she knows how deep his grief was, and and she's like, well, if it's really her, I think I owe him to tell him. And then she kind of second guessed herself, because we were in her POV when she was doing that. But it's like, I don't know, I don't think she was wrong. I think she should tell John, but I get why she doesn't. But because it's like, but
I don't think she can. I don't think she told Trez anything different that she told John. She told John she sensed something inside of him. She told him that she sensed something, but she doesn't, you know what I'm saying? And she basically told Trez almost the same thing, but what stopped her was Lassiter, because when we were in her POV, that's what stopped her, right? Didn't he show up? And only where she could see him, and he was like, don't say nothing.
Yeah,
and that's why she was like, look, it's all gonna be okay.
No.
I do think she had said enough. I'm sorry, what?
He didn't say anything to her. She asked him, what about John? And he said, I can't change what's already been done. And so she got her answer. But I don't think that.
Oh, you're talking about Lassiter. I think Sage was talking about when Hex was about to tell Trez.
She does tell him.
Kind of
she
like
says, you can trust him.
I don't know if she said the whole thing. Like, this.
She didn't say the whole thing. She was stopped by Lassiter's presence. Yeah. And that's why she didn't finish what she said. She was. I know. I read it a couple of weeks ago, so it's a little murky to me. But I do remember.
Well, he was upstairs looking down at them.
Something, but he made some sort of mental connection with her to where that's why she heard him say that. But I remember him saying something like, almost hinting to where not to say anything more. And that's why she was just like, I think it'll be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, I don't know. So she doesn't have that lesser problem with John. And we talked about John. And I know we're not supposed to talk about John because John wasn't in this book. But we're going to talk about him. Do you agree with her reasoning? Like, we know the reasons. Do you agree with her not telling John? I tell him. I'm going to tell you, Scott.
No, I mean, I think she should just tell him. But I it's one of those things that it would change his entire world and how he views himself. So, and she doesn't want to hurt him.
Would it though? I don't know.
I don't know. I think she's assuming that.
Maybe that's what she's assuming, but I don't think that it would though. John is a strong person, and he's been through a lot. This kid went through freaking hell and back before he even transitioned. So I think that I feel like it would make him understand himself even more. And she can tell him what she knows. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking her to do anything else, but tell him, I sense another conscience. I think it might be Darby.
Something about I see two grids.
She did, yeah.
Yeah. I think she did. But I don't know. I don't know if she can without harming him, because whenever he has, all right, so I'm going to say this. Whenever he has visions, whenever he's around Beth, and I think he got a little better now, like especially when, he thought he was going to die, he was able to sit around Beth and the kids. But at first, when he had these new alternate streams of consciousness flowing into him, he was having seizures. And is it possible that that's like what's holding her back? Like, I don't want to kill not Shellen, Lord have mercy. I don't want to kill my Hellren. So is it possible that she's just worried about the impact that it could have on her? I really think that might be the thing. Because I don't think, like, that's the only thing that would keep me from telling John.
That's interesting because remember he had the seizure thing when he met Murder. And but no, like, she doesn't make a big deal out of it. Like, she's just like, I think because she knows that's why he's having it, that it's I think she understands that and made no big deal about it. And even Murder didn't really say anything about it. But he's probably just following their lead too. They're not freaking out about it, so he's not going to.
But Murder is intuitive, and that's my other
he's very sensitive.
I forgot to visit him on my holiday trip through the mansion.
I bet you did.
Well,
you ain't got to tell us. I thought you visited a lot of rooms. But
they're at a house. They have a house.
Oh yeah, they do have their own house. No, but they were visiting the mansion for the holidays.
Well, I think we're leaving out like Christmas Eve. Like we can start on Christmas Eve and just go straight through.
Right. I think so.
We don't have to confine it to 24 hours. We can get the whole 40
the
hours.
night before Christmas. I mean, we start there.
Right. And all through the house. Y'all some dirty bras. That's why I love you guys. All right. So Lassiter was around the whole time. We mentioned that he was around with Hex. And then Selena looked outside, saw that big ass snow angel. Bless his heart. He is so the shit. And then at the very end, he pops out like, I am the shit, bitches. So was he guiding them, or was he just making sure that, things didn't go awry? Like the whole time he was there. So why do you think Lassiter was?
I don't think he was guiding them because he never interacts with them. I think that he is just showing a supportive, with the snow angel. It was just to say, hey, you're not alone. Somebody's here for you. And, you could just picture Lassiter out there going like.
I feel like his wings are like a flutter, like a fairy wing, not like a, like.
No, they're big. Oh, I was talking about his hands. He's doing snow angels.
Oh, yeah. You're right about that.
But I feel like he was just making sure that his little project was, not going awry.
I'm not off the rails. How about you, Sage? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. It's like how you watch those like Christmas movies, or there's always that like present that kind of inches
The Santa Claus character.
The Santa Claus character, right? Or the little lady, that you think it's Miss Claus or whatever. I feel like that's how the kind of role he plays within this world. I think that he kind of he has this foresight of what's going to happen, and he just kind of like nudges them in the direction that is best suited for their path. And I think that's how he does it. And I think that's what he did along pretty much throughout this whole book, is kind of nudge them, because he's like a miracle worker, he's like, I'm gonna perform all the miracles because this is what I do.
He's definitely very hands-on, because we saw it like when the band of bastards and the brothers all had to fight in that warehouse. I don't think he can like impact free will, but I do think if something happens, he's like, okay, let me put this in place to counteract that. All right, let me put this in place. So when they were like going their separate ways, he was like, okay, let me send the mother to Caldwell. Let me get the charger plug in place. Let me let her listen to the message. Like, I do very much believe that, he can't impact what they do, but he puts another thing in front of them to make sure that, it goes the way it should. And he's very, very hands-on. I kind of love that about him. I think he's going to get like burnout or something, because he just into it a lot. So yeah, I do like that he's hanging around there, and but I do want him to like ease back, because I don't want him to burn his wings off or no shit like that. So, so we had another episode before the parents came to town. She found out that she looked like Selena, and Trez kind of spilled the beans on that. Do you think she overreacted to that?
It's interesting. I don't think she did. She was like, you're using me. She felt betrayed, and I get that. I don't think she overreacted to it. I mean, she didn't spaz out. She was just like, no, just, you have to leave me alone, because this isn't gonna work. If you think I'm somebody else.
Yeah.
So, I don't think she overreacted. I mean, she wasn't a bitch about it. I actually thought she was kind of nice about it. She was just kind of like, I'm out of here. Don't contact me, because this isn't healthy.
Right. How about you, Sage?
I'm gonna have to agree, because if you have a man that's like Trez, in love with you and treating you in this way, you want it to be because of I want it to be because of me. I don't want it to be because I look like your dead wife. Like, that's just, it's like a slap in the face almost, right? So I totally, it's different when you have like a type. Right, it's different if she was just like like just any old redhead or brunette. I can't remember, but like any any person with the same hair color and eyes. But when you are an exact replica of that person, then it's kind of like, wow, did you like me, or did you like me because I have that face? And I can see it. Yeah, I can see her reaction being valid.
Yeah, and I've seen that reaction before. Like, I don't know if people watch Vampire Diaries, but I'm like a real ass vampire fan. So I watch Vampire Diaries, and Catherine had a doppelganger in Elena, and she had the same reaction. Like, what the fuck? I am myself. Like, are you just dating me because of who I look like in a past life? And I totally get that. I mean, you should tell me if I look like somebody in your past, and don't just assume that I'm going to be okay with it and that I'm never going to find out. It was really taking her for granted in that moment. And I know Trez didn't mean to, and I know he felt bad. That was what the whole breakdown was about. But I don't know how I would have been able to just take that and not say anything, not, fire back. Like, what, how dare you, do this thing to me? And then have that realization that you didn't even say my name. Like, we were getting busy, and you didn't even say my name. Like, how How tragic, the fucking audacity. All right, so I'm gonna get off that before I get mad at Trez, and I've never been mad at Trez, so we'll leave that moment. I got one last question. At the end, Lassiter popped out, and it was one of my favorite scenes, and I absolutely adore it. But he erased their memories, the pertinent parts that were related to her finding out that she was Selena reincarnated at the very end, and that he had a hand in it. Do you think he should have erased those memories? And why didn't he do that in the beginning? Like when, why didn't you erase different memories to make it just easier for them to fall into each other's arms?
He can't do that because I think that's a gross manipulation of free will there. If you're just going to erase somebody's memories. And, having just finished this book last night, I can tell you that he didn't erase all their memories. The only thing he erased was the how, because he broke it down to them. Hey, I went back in time. I put the baby on the doorstep. I did this, and that was the thing that he erased. He let her remember that she was Selena, that stayed true, but it was, but yeah, I think knowing the how probably isn't necessary for them to live. I think that knowing the how would make it more difficult. I think it's just nice to, hey, I'm a believer now, because they had that thing at the end where, Trez buys that angel for Therese, because it was, because so he knew something happened. He knew Lassiter was involved in whatever it was, but he didn't know how. So, I just thought that was really sweet. And I like, they had that New Year's party and Lassiter's there and he points, and goes like, I thought that was really cool. I just had to mention that.
It was cool. How about you, Sage?
I think he had to take the memories away. As much as I wish he wouldn't had, I think he had to because I think it would be like a conflict within them and with herself, because it would lose part of her identity, I think. And
she with her new parents,
right, with her new parents and just of identity of self. So I think that it was important that she still knew that she might have been like a past life type Selena, and she would understand that, but to have all the memories would say that she was only created basically for him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Instead of not actually having her own identity as a person.
I agree with that totally, 100%.
So here's what I would have loved to have happened. And I know that, this is totally unrealistic, but I wanted him to go back and erase Selena from Trez's and everyone's memory. And I know that's fucked up because she had a whole life and it was valid, but it would have been easier, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it have been easier if Trez just had a dream memory of her and Selena, who was already dreaming of her mystery lover? And I know that stretches the bounds of Lassiter's abilities because he can't undo anything that the Scribe Virgin did. But it would have been so much easier. And I still can't shake it. I really want it to happen, but it is what it is.
I can agree with that, but it would be easier. But at the same time, there's no sacrifice then. There's no balance. And so Trez having to go through that loss and that grief was the balance of her coming back.
You really are the Scribe Virgin today. I'm not feeling that.
No, Lassiter. It's the same thing. I'm talking about Lassiter. Like,
Lassiter.
He says, because literally I just finished listening to this book last night. He says, that.
Look at her roll her eyes.
He says that he had to keep balance because even in my world, that's a thing. And so because they why'd you make us go through all this, But
I think I agree in where I don't know. I mean, it would be easier, but how fair is that for actual Selena? Not Therese, but actual Selena.
I said, like, it would be like her life is valid. She lived a life and all of those things, But I think, I just feel like, And naturally, my way, we wouldn't have had the first book. You know.
That's what she's really saying. She's really saying, I didn't want to read that sad ass book.
The whole time I've been fucking grieving with Trez, and I was so glad when we got to this book because I get to relive him finally getting his, you know, his just desserts and his happily ever after. And, you know, we're romance readers and writers at heart, so we gotta have that. So I agree we needed all this to happen, but it just would have been easier.
Well, you know,
we
have to go through hell in order to get our happily ever afters.
God.
The thing is, she wants Lassiter to erase the memory of that book.
That's what it is.
You cry so hard.
She wants to totally forget about the Shadows book.
Oh, that's not a hard one.
It was.
Well, like, let's just picture this as part 2 of that one, and we just read it in 2 parts. Let's not picture that as a separate book.
That's right. Thank you so much for that.
Going forward, we'll just match those 2 books together when we read them.
Absolutely. That's what we'll do next time. Like on your next reread, read those 2 together. Skip over everything else and just put those together.
But if you get other people's point of views, if you get other people's point of view, skip them because you're not going to want the spoilers in between.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't even just go straight through them. Yeah. All right, I think that's all our questions tonight. We are going to be back with The Sinner, which is an amazing book, and it's about Sin and Joe Early. And we'll be back after Christmas. I think we'll be back before New Year's. I don't know. It's us too.
We're going to try.
But thank you guys for joining in. Happy holidays to you all. We hope that, you know, your holiday season is merry and bright, and however you celebrate. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Holidays.